Hello, everyone. This is Yoko. I've noticed that a lot of information about what's happening in China isn't getting accurately conveyed to countries outside of China. That's why I've taken it upon myself to gather information and share it in English through this channel. I pull information from various sources, so I would appreciate your feedback on the video's content in the comments. Since English is not my native language, I use an AI speaker to generate the audio to ensure the information is conveyed correctly. If you enjoy the content, please consider subscribing to the channel and showing your support. Today, I'd like to talk about corporate bankruptcies. Recently, there has been a significant increase in the bankruptcy of ramen restaurants in Japan. Various costs have been rising, making it challenging to turn a profit. For example, electricity and gas bills have increased significantly, and the prices of ramen noodles and other ingredients have also gone up. As a result, many restaurants can no longer sustain their business. But it's not just limited to this. What's currently making headlines is a wave of bankruptcies across various industries. In fact, since the beginning of this year, corporate bankruptcies have been on the rise, not only in the construction sector but in other sectors as well. Like ramen shops, rising costs are affecting various industries, with the surge in energy prices having an impact on almost every sector. When electricity and gas bills go up and the prices of imported goods increase, the ramifications are far-reaching. In fiercely competitive industries like the ramen business, these impacts can be substantial enough to lead to business closures. Ultimately, this applies to all industries. When rising costs can't be offset by raising product prices, the situation becomes challenging. For instance, in the case of ramen restaurants, if the cost of ingredients goes up, they can raise the selling price of their ramen. If customers are willing to pay more, they can keep the business running. However, if customers were coming because of the previous lower prices, increasing the prices might drive them away and could lead to bankruptcy. In such cases, if there are no other options, it might be worth trying to raise prices. Restaurants that can maintain customers even after raising prices will continue to thrive, while those that see a decrease in customers may face bankruptcy in the future. In other words, in the end, only companies that successfully raise their prices will survive. This applies not only to the food and beverage industry but to all sectors. Companies with a mindset for price increases are becoming the mainstream. In the past, Japan experienced prolonged deflation, and companies were hesitant to raise prices for fear of losing customers. Even as costs rose, companies primarily focused on cost cutting and shifted the burden to subcontractors to avoid raising the final product's price. However, in the future, only companies that succeed in raising prices will survive. As prices for various products and services continue to rise, the fate of the Japanese economy may hinge on whether the employees of companies that successfully raise prices will see their salaries increase. Ultimately, if the salaries of regular Japanese citizens don't increase, it essentially means that the overall economic pie is shrinking. In other words, domestic demand is decreasing. As a result, the number of people willing to accept price increases also decreases overall. Consequently, the number of companies that can survive is steadily decreasing. Therefore, companies that implement price increases and create a positive cycle of increased acceptance of those price increases may still face issues when demand decreases later, even if they initially succeeded in raising prices. In essence, companies that could increase salaries but choose to be frugal and not increase them are practicing negatively towards the overall Japanese economy. Whether or not Japanese salaries increase as a whole has become an issue as important as whether individual salaries rise. Now, let's talk about China, which is facing even larger problems than Japan. In China, there is an observed wave of bankruptcies, and one particular issue that cannot be stopped is the closure of kindergartens. China has been dealing with what's been referred to as the kindergarten bankruptcy rush for some time now. And what's drawing attention is that kindergarten closures have increased even in September this year. So, why are kindergartens closing in China? The main reason is the decrease in the number of children. The Chinese Communist Party has been urging people to have more children because of a significant decrease in the number of children. However, especially due to the very high unemployment rate among young people, individuals are struggling to make ends meet rather than having more children. As a result, the number of children is not increasing at all. Consequently, even kindergartens with a capacity of about 50 children may sometimes be unable to find applicants. This phenomenon is also observed in major cities. China used to issue warnings about not becoming a society like Japan, struggling with aging and declining birth rates. However, for a long time, China has implemented the one-child policy. Continuing this policy in such a dire situation showcases political flaws in China. It appears as if they cannot admit their past mistakes, and there seems to be a certain pride among the authorities. They have been saying things like do not have more than one child and penalizing those who have a second child, even treating those with two or more children as non-citizens for a while, yet they can't admit that they were consistently wrong. Especially since local officials have consistently advocated do not have more than two children, suggesting have more children now contradicts their previous statements. Therefore, they understand the problem but cannot change it. As a result, China is currently facing a more severe situation than Japan. First and foremost, when it comes to Chinese citizens, not everyone has become reasonably affluent like in Japan. They have already found themselves in such a situation, even before becoming well-off. From here on, the proportion of elderly individuals will continue to increase, while the number of people actively working is decreasing. Moreover, young adults entering the workforce are facing unemployment, and these individuals are not contributing to the economy but are solely consumers. The previous generation of young people in China comes from a time when the Chinese economy was booming. Therefore, it's possible that some of them have some savings. However, it's important to note that the majority of Chinese assets are in real estate. For example, they bought an apartment, and its value steadily increased as they lived there. Over time, this real estate asset may have accumulated to tens of millions or, in some cases, even exceeded 100 million yen, in Japanese currency. However, these gains are largely due to a real estate bubble, and I believe that, except for prime real estate, the value of most real estate properties will decrease in the future. If that happens, young people will have no jobs and no choice but to deplete their parents' assets. Furthermore, the evaluation of these assets will also decline. For Chinese citizens, this situation is worrisome, and they would prefer to see it halted. However, there is no clear prescription for stopping this trend. This is a problem that Japan also faces. Once a society goes through demographic aging, various negative spirals begin, and it is challenging to halt them. There are two main approaches: either accept that the population is decreasing, as people argue that the population is already on the decline, and work toward ensuring that everyone can live a reasonably good life, or take measures to ensure that the working age population does not decrease. The latter involves encouraging the domestic population to have more children, but this may not be enough, leading to the idea of inviting people from other countries to address labor shortages. Hence, the key issue is whether a nation should accept a declining working age population or work to maintain it. Japan, for example, is concerned about a decreasing working age population and aims to promote child-rearing support. However, it's essential to recognize that, statistically, individuals with lower incomes are less likely to get married and have fewer children. Therefore, child-rearing support measures may not be effective unless they are combined with measures to increase the incomes of young people. Let's discuss the current situation in China. First and foremost, not all Chinese citizens have achieved a level of prosperity similar to Japan. They have been facing such conditions even before becoming affluent. Moreover, the proportion of elderly people continues to grow while the number of people actively employed is decreasing. Furthermore, young individuals entering the workforce are encountering unemployment, and they've turned into consumers rather than contributors to the economy. The previous generation of Chinese youth grew up during a time when the Chinese economy was rapidly expanding. Some among them may have accumulated savings. Nevertheless, it's vital to understand that most Chinese assets are tied to real estate. For instance, buying an apartment and seeing its value steadily rise over time. These real estate assets could now be worth millions of Japanese yen and, in some cases, even surpass $1 billion. However, these gains are largely due to a real estate bubble, And I believe that, except for prime real estate, the value of many properties will decline in the future. If this materializes, young individuals will have no jobs and will have no option but to deplete their parents' assets. Additionally, the assessment of these assets will also decrease. For Chinese citizens, this situation is a cause for concern, and they wish to put a stop to it. However, there is no clear prescription for preventing this trend. This is a problem that Japan is also grappling with. Once a society undergoes demographic aging, various negative spirals commence, and stopping them becomes a challenging task. There are two primary approaches: either accept that the population is decreasing and strive to ensure that everyone can lead a reasonably good life, or take measures to prevent the decline of the working age population. The latter involves encouraging the domestic population to have more children, but this alone may not suffice, leading to the idea of inviting people from other countries to address labor shortages. Hence, the crucial issue is whether a nation should accept a diminishing working age population or work towards sustaining it. Japan, for instance, is concerned about a decreasing working age population and aims to promote child-rearing support. However, it's essential to acknowledge that, statistically, individuals with lower incomes are less likely to get married and have fewer children. Therefore, child-rearing support measures may not be effective unless combined with measures to increase young people's incomes. When facing labor shortages and hiring foreign workers, these foreign workers often accept more stringent working conditions compared to Japanese workers, potentially having an unintended wage-suppressing effect. As a result, Japanese workers might find it challenging to demand wage increases. Without an increase in the labor force, it might be difficult for wages in Japan to rise. In essence, in the current situation, surviving companies are those capable of raising the prices of their products or services. Companies unable to accept price increases may face a high risk of elimination. While this might lead to the creation of unemployed individuals, these people might eventually be absorbed by companies that implement price increases. What's crucial at this stage is ensuring an increase in wages. This is a significant concern for the entire Japanese population and the Japanese economy. Some individuals might experience substantial wage increases, but if wages fail to keep pace with rising prices, it essentially means a decline in living standards, contributing to social polarization. In any case, China is a dictatorship where the fate of the nation is determined by the Communist Party, regardless of the ideas or suggestions citizens may have. In contrast, Japan allows ordinary citizens to generate various ideas. People can engage in activities such as voting, expressing their views, and influencing politics. Therefore, taking an interest in Japan's evolution, participating in voting, and sharing information is meaningful. A pessimistic outlook won't bring about any change.